Hello, welcome back to the sideboard here at the Regional Championship in Washington, D.C., part of SCG Con. I'm Nick Miller alongside Pro Tour champion Reid Duke. No stranger to the sideboard. Good to see you. It's good to be back with Giant Magic tournaments, and you are, of course, here battling it out.
It is good to be back. I mean, doing an interview with you after all these years, Nick, having like Cedric and Patrick cover one of my, on-camera matches. It's just so much fun. Like, so happy that this is that this has come together.
Yeah. Tell us about your deck choice this week. You're playing Dimir Control, a standout because, the top deck, the most played deck in the field is Azorius Control by big numbers up there, but you're choosing the blue-black route. Take us on that thought decision.
Cool. So the storyline of this deck is way back at Pro Tour Karlov Manor. Gabriel Nassif played blue-black Control. He was the only one in the entire tournament playing it, and he went 8-2. Really good, right? But as it turned out, the deck that caught on after the Pro Tour was Rakdos Vampires, and Nassif's deck didn't get a lot of attention. But now Sorin is banned, so I had the idea, let's go revisit the deck that proved itself so strong in the pre-Vampires world, and it's also just really fun. I enjoy the cards in it, and it's cool to be at least a little different than what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, I know one of Gabe's cohorts, Edgar Maguire, is also a big fan of the deck.
Yep.
Won some tournaments up in Canada, I believe, with it. Now take us through your choices here. A lot of, not 4-ofs. So you got a lot of range in this deck. You, of course, have Deduce and Fatal Push as, maxed out. But I think the card that everyone kind of sees is the Deadly Cover-Up and goes, now what's going on here?
Yeah, so you nailed it. The only cards that are 4-ofs, including the entire 75, are Fatal Push and Deduce. Those are the ones I want to see in my opening hand the most. And then, other than that, it's the games go long, you see a lot of cards, you want a lot of variety to line up the right answer against the right threat. But yeah, the key card and the reason that I'm choosing Dimir over Azorius is Deadly Cover-Up. So this is really effective for getting rid of creatures with graveyard recursion. I exiled somebody's entire playset of Cauldron Familiars earlier. And against Is It Phoenix, if you can wipe their board, get rid of all their Arclight Phoenixes, it not only is it difficult for them to rebuild right away, but it pretty quickly gets to a point where they don't really have enough threats left in their deck to beat you in a long game. So it's really, really powerful, especially in the right matchup.
Yeah, once you have more removal spells than they have creatures,
that's the idea.
It's hard for them to grind a game out. Yeah, and there's a lot of graveyard recursion in this format that you mentioned, and even decks not like those two you mentioned just have random cards that are coming back, or have Delirium and things like that when you talk about the Rakdos mid-range decks. So you have that covered. And in true Reid Control fashion, the win cons are few and far between here.
Definitely, yeah.
Shark Typhoon and some creature lands.
Yep, yeah, so you honestly win a lot of your games with creature lands just once you've taken control of the game, gotten really far ahead. A couple Shark Typhoons that can be nice. Definitely have hard casted a few times. And I'll also highlight the one of Torrential Gearhulk in the deck, because sort of the end game checkmate that you can go for is you play Torrential Gearhulk, flashback Dig Through Time, which great card, by the way, one of my favorites. And if you can put 3 steps ahead in your hand, then you untap with the ability to counter your opponent's next spell and copy your Gearhulk. And in any kind of close game, that's going to be enough to slam the door shut.
Yeah, hard to come back from that much card advantage and the creatures you're putting on the table. You got a removal suite of Drown in the Lock plus Shieldred's Edict to kind of cover your bases. Hand Disruption, as the tournament, of course, kicked off with you turn 1 Thoughtseize.
Oh, is that right? I didn't even realize that. That's great.
And that's just poetic, I would say. Also, I think you need to call out the Cling to Dust here as the main deck inclusion.
Yep. Yesterday, at the midnight hour, I added a second Cling to Dust because this is just a really low cost, versatile card. Builds in some graveyard hate, builds in some life gain. Yeah, I'm just a big fan of it. Subtle inclusion, but it does pull a lot of weight.
How do you feel your matchups are against the top spread here, and in particular the blue-white matchup?
Okay, good question. So of the big decks, I think Is It Phoenix is a squarely favorable matchup, and that's a big reason to choose Dimir. Rakdos Prowess is structurally pretty tough, but I made like almost every single card choice in my deck to pick up as much ground as possible. So I got that one up to close to 50-50, I'd like to think. And then the control mirror is just a control mirror. Hard to claim that I'm favored, but you know, I've got some flexible stuff. I have Thought Seized, Cling to Dust on their Memory Deluge, but control mirrors are always kind of brutal, and then you have the additional risk of not finishing in time.
Yeah.
So I would say that's not one of the matchups I'm hoping to play a lot for the rest of the event.
And I think I recall the original incarnation of the deck. I heard both of them talk about they won a lot of games just through milling, or like, you know, Deadly Cover-Up, taking out all the threats, and then you can just win however you want.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've, like, you know, natural decked Phoenix players, because you remove their Arclight Phoenixes and then an attack with a Restless Reef, or you know, kind of bait them into resolving one too many treasure crews. So that can definitely happen.
Take us through your key sideboard cards here. Narset just seems like another door slammer against the Phoenix deck.
Yep. Yeah, Narset has been really effective. It was actually the very best Narset was today was against the Unholy Annex Reckoner Bankbuster mono black deck.
Okay.
So there's like a lot of corner, you know, if somebody's playing Caretaker's Talent, there's a lot of unusual places where Narset is just exactly what the doctor ordered.
Yep.
And then yes, very good if you can have it on the battlefield against Phoenix. Going down the list, Kalidas is really exciting in this deck. It's a great card right now with like Food and Phoenix and some other aggro decks running around, and Dimir Control is maybe the best home for it. Chrome Host Seed Shark just to kind of punish people when they sideboard out too many removal spells.
Yep.
And Path of Peril is my sideboard card of choice against the just really, really fast decks. It's like sometimes you need it to keep pace in the early turns.
Fantastic. In a closing thought, how would you describe Pioneer right now? It seems to be one of the more diverse metagames we've seen in this format before. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's really cool. You know, like, it's rare going into a tournament that you're not sure what the most popular deck is going to be. And here, you know, we have Rakdos, Prowess, Phoenix, and Azorius Control that are all, it's a toss-up. What's the best?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can kind of play whatever archetype is fun for you right now. So Pioneer's pretty diverse, and there's a lot of directions you can go.
Awesome. Well, you're off to a 6-1 start, correct?
That's right, yep. 2
more rounds to go, and then we hope to see you on day 2 doing the usual Reid thing.
Let's hope.
All right, Reid, appreciate you for joining me here in the sideboard. Stay tuned to Star City Games all weekend long for the action here in Washington, D.C.